So the two themes that we've seen that I think are very important in this presentation is much greater business involvement in the adoption of technology in business, and also a changing role of the CIO, and I'll speak to those in the predictions. We're going to touch on the investment outlook for 2013 first. I own the CIO agenda. I'm a former CIO. I was the CIO of Royal Ahold in the Netherlands, based in Europe. I know a lot of European CIOs. We advise European CIOs as well as US CIOs and host events on both continents. And we collect feedback from them, and I'll share that with you today. I have a lot of information. We presented this to a group of CIOs locally yesterday, and I'll just try to highlight what I think will be of most interest to you. This is our sentiment survey and what is on the 2013 personal agenda for CIOs. Significant here, and WE stands for Western Europe, is that really the focus on innovation. So in many respects, the move to a services portfolio has started to take root, and we'll talk about the third platform. There's much greater, CIOs have a much greater focus on business innovation and how to use technology rather than on adopting and managing technology itself. Notably in Western Europe, on the fourth item is better alignment with the business. We've seen that diminish in the US, and we think we'll see that in Western Europe as well. And it's another expression of focusing on the business and not the technology. The IT budget outlook, again, this is for two continents. We typically see a mix of increases and decreases, and budgets staying the same. Probably in Spain, as I discussed with the CIOs yesterday, it's hard to relate to an average increase of 11.4% budget, but we can talk about what's behind these numbers. So the increase is really growth, new projects, and also this gear is really existing technology, asset refresh, and a lot of that is significantly driving that. We think that in the future we'll see a reduction in that, and we'll talk about why that is. And then notably decreases the negative economy and weak business outlook. But also the improved IT efficiency. CIOs are still wringing efficiencies out of their technology portfolios through virtualization, particularly in the data center, and also extending the life of desktop assets and moving some of the mobile cost out to employees. So we're, again, La Tercera Plataforma, right? The third platform. We think this is very important. And let me talk to you about how we advise CIOs about the importance of this. You see on the platform on this diagram, cloud, mobile, social, and big data icons represented. And what we talk about is each of these technologies really have a great value, and we see this all around us today. We use mobile applications particularly. But our advice to CIOs is to look for that powerful combination of these technologies, as we call it later in the presentation. You'll see what's the mashup of these technologies that will really allow you to differentiate yourself in your industry. And it's the combination of technologies, and you'll see right outside in the BBVA Innovation Center where they have a depiction of cloud and how mobile applications are using the cloud for delivering financial services to their customers. Also important to CIOs, and you'll see this theme throughout the presentation, is shifting from a portfolio of systems and technologies to a portfolio of services, both technology services and business services, and also creating an agile IT portfolio and architecture, allowing for a more agile business architecture and moving from information to innovation. Our first prediction then is that by 2016, business executives, this is line of business executives, will be directly involved in 80% of new investments. So we've seen a significant increase in business involvement. Business executives are buying software as a service. In some cases, they're buying infrastructure. And this is a significant shift. Also, we feel that business people are much more comfortable with technology. And so the impact here for the CIO, our advice to them, is really think about how this impacts your IT planning, your governance models, and also your portfolio management. Because in this case, the business, in some cases, unilaterally is adopting what would typically be a system provided by the CIO, and in other cases is leading that with some participation of the IT organization. But the portfolio of both systems and services is changing, and it's not under the direct control. The entire portfolio is no longer under the direct control of the CIO. So important to think about planning, governance, and portfolio management. Also related to business involvement in the adoption of technology is how business is starting to look at the investment in technology. Traditionally, the investments has required server software, consulting, and so forth. And what we're seeing with the third platform technologies is that particularly cloud and social technologies, mobile technologies, are much easier to adopt by the business. And so the business has a more direct connection between what they need, what will improve the business, and what capabilities that they can buy, and it's no longer thought of as an IT investment. And we think that this is very important, and that the technology investments, really, the third platform technologies, are really being seen as just another business investment. We think a side benefit of this is that it really creates clarity for the chief financial officer about the cost of technology and business services, and aligning those costs with the area or line of business. So as we move to more of a services portfolio, we're seeing companies being able to have a metered service, so that you can not only associate the use of the service with a line of business, but also have easier termination and a zero capital approach to the adoption of business and technology services. And what we've seen, interestingly, over the past 10 to 20 years is that in mature economies, 50% of all capital, all business capital, has been related to IT. And there has been, I know, frustration among CFOs about where that cost is going and what the business case is for those investments. And as we move to a services-based model, both for IT capabilities as well as business capabilities, what we'll see is, again, is more clarity about the investment and the business case. So we talked about the third platform technologies, and I mentioned the mashups and how we define a mashup. It's a combination of these technologies, and we believe that in 2013, we've seen some of this already in 2012. In 2013, many more CIOs are going to be finding that combination quite often around big data, and I'll talk about big data and mobility and social capabilities. SaaS solutions and mobile services have quickly delivered some breakthrough capabilities in businesses. Analytics is now on the board agenda. I sit on the boards of 2 companies, for instance, and analytics is top of mind. The investors want to know. They want information. They want answers in an hour, and they won't wait until the next board meeting. And so we've also seen a lot of success with third platform technologies. And so related to this is some survey work that we've done with CIOs and how they view their future role, and particularly whether or not they see the role of the CIO evolving to the Chief Innovation Officer. There's strong agreement on that. It's quite aspirational. But at the same time, the feedback in sitting down in groups privately with executives, they don't see themselves as necessarily being the owning all business innovation, just particularly innovation related to information technology. However, I did sit yesterday with somebody whose title is the Chief Information and Innovation Officer, and he also owns business technology, a gentleman from Ferrovial. So innovative CIOs are starting to adopt these mashups. We're going to see much more of that, as I said. There's going to be business, again, adopting third platform technologies and innovating with those and taking the lead on that. And then CIOs are also starting to develop the architecture and the management capabilities around cloud services in particular, which are creating this extended enterprise. And so we have to understand that CIOs are charged with managing security and risk, and providing analytics across all information sources. Now those information sources are moving beyond the data center out to cloud and mobile devices, and they also need to bring that data together and manage what we refer to as an extended enterprise. Interestingly, I think for you, is that we are advising CIOs to lean on their strategic partners as they look for innovations in third platform technologies, and we think that there's a significant opportunity there, both for the CIOs and for their vendor partners. Prediction 5, 70% of CIOs will embrace a cloud-first strategy in 2016. Cloud-first to us means that in looking for a business solution, a technology-based business solution, that they would most place the highest priority on that solution being available in the cloud. In our discussions today with CIOs, typically it's a lower level item, a box that is to be checked. Do you provide this as a service as well as a system or software that I install in my data center? But it's not a driving force in their adoption. However, 23% of enterprises have a cloud-first strategy today, and this is based on U.S. data, so I'll just qualify that. But we see this as a major trend, and again, CIOs are developing the capabilities to manage these cloud services, to integrate it into their extended enterprise architecture. And we're also seeing the barriers to adoption break down. CIOs are becoming more comfortable with security, more comfortable with managing third-party services, more comfortable with the integration, and they feel confident they have these skills. So when we polled them about these capabilities around cloud, the contract terms, while new and different, and some work needs to be done there, they've started that work with their sourcing executives, and they feel that they have the skills to manage cloud services. The areas that they're working on really are in service management, in the architectural standards, and also in developing a migration path. And so today what we see is, for the most part, adoption of cloud services, mobile services, and some basic integration, but not the architectural capabilities or the integration capabilities that is required. Prediction number 6, then, by 2013, 1/3 of all new application development will target a mobile form factor. We think this is significant. The actual statistics that we're showing here from our survey, the mobile-only devices, mobile and non-mobile devices, comprise 33%. So we think that that's a fairly modest prediction, and based on the survey data. In 2014, we believe that 40% of new mobile apps will target multiple operating systems. So the battles between iOS and Android are not going to go away. There are not going to be many more platforms to write to. But the multiple operating system challenge is a big challenge for CIOs. And so we think that CIOs must decide on the mobile operating system and also the device strategy. Are we writing for tablets? Are we writing for phones? Because 46% of the cost of mobile and IT budgets is just related to maintenance. And so it's really just keeping afloat and not offering new capabilities and innovations. So what we've seen typically in mobile development, and I discussed this with CIOs yesterday who are doing some mobile development here in Spain, is that as they write to a few applications and a single operating system, that they develop those capabilities internally, and once they get beyond 5 applications and they're writing for iOS and Android and other platforms, that they need to outsource effectively the mobile development. And so we see this as a big growth area. Our advice yesterday to those CIOs is that if you see in your business a high percentage of mobile applications being developed, particularly if you're in a B2C business, then that's probably going to be the case. Or if you have a large sales force or field sales and service, you're going to develop a lot of mobile applications. Maybe just look for third-party support early on, rather than developing those capabilities. And this is key. I'll talk about talent in a little bit. Things are moving fast. These technologies are not only easy to adopt, the standards are moving very quickly. The vendors are presenting new capabilities, which places great demand on CIOs just to stay ahead. And so we think that this is an area for partnership, quite honestly. I mentioned, interestingly, in the situation assessment that mobile development is as much as 80% of some development portfolios today. So this is atypical. This specific case is from an interview with the CIO of Aetna Insurance, and they have created a large mobile development center in Phoenix, Arizona, and he's shifted 80% of his development activity to mobile devices. Prediction 7, enterprise social networks will move beyond the pilot stage. So I think this reflects what we heard earlier from Jose, and a very consistent message here. I wish we had coordinated our message, but we see the world the same way, which is a good thing. And so what we've seen is that enterprise social networks, social media within the enterprise for collaboration, for file sharing, is really the domain of the CIO. And so in our situation assessment, what we've seen is in trying to assess where have enterprise social networks really succeeded, it's where there's a cultural fit in the business. And that said, we've also seen CIOs put the technology out there, and our recommendation is to create pilots, to plant the seed, and be opportunistic about finding areas where people would like to collaborate. A very marked distinction in our surveys and our feedback from our conferences and talking to CIOs on the two continents is that in the United States in September, we hosted a CIO summit, and we found that the CIOs were very vocal about the business value of collaboration and could cite multi-million-dollar success stories easily. And so that was very surprising feedback. 4 weeks later in Frankfurt at the CIO Summit, really more of a struggle to understand the business value. And so it's unclear whether or not CIOs need to make a strategic investment. These are not great investments, or whether or not it's a cultural barrier. So we think that 2013 will tell, but we'll start to see social networks in the enterprise take off. Interestingly, also, we're seeing some companies trying to diminish the role of email, and we're seeing some vendors try to sell on the diminished role of email. We think email will just become more social. We think it will be combined with collaboration and sharing tools, and those tools being core, as Jose presented, to business processes. Big data. Sure. So big data, a year ago, we had predicted that 2012 would be the year of big data, and we've seen a huge interest in this. And we've also had some learnings from some big companies. I hosted a big data panel in the U.S. My panelists were from GE Capital, Walmart, and Bank of America. So these are not typical companies. These are very large companies. But they had gone down the path of actual big data projects, and they had some learnings to share with us. Interestingly, in the statistics, and this is a very large big data survey that IDC conducted in 2012, that really the three challenges that CIOs are facing, both with analytics and with big data, are the same. It's cost, it's talent, and it's the data itself. And so what we've seen is that CIOs really, before launching into a big data project, because the infrastructure can be quite expensive, really need to understand if they're prepared, if they have the talent, and if they have the quality of data and access to the data that they need to succeed. And so at the same time, we hear from them that the technology is fairly easy compared to actually creating the business case. And the reason for that is, as we say in the prediction, these are very different projects. There's not a predictive outcome in a lot of these projects. Where we've seen companies make big data investments, they know that there's a strategic value to be had, and they make the investment, but they don't exactly know what the predictive outcome. And as somebody said to me, the gentleman from Bank of America, in a financial services company, that's very hard to do because they're very focused on, okay, we're going to make this investment, what's the return? Also, a shortage of talent, and this reflects both IT talent and talent in the business. You need hyper-analytical people who understand the data model, and it's very difficult, and we'll talk about IT talent here in a moment. And the projects, the gentleman from Walmart talked about their projects, once they have the infrastructure in place, are really on a 60-day cycle. So these are very fast projects and again, experimental. IT talent is a huge problem in the U.S., and this is a problem without a known solution. We've developed an approach for CIOs to think about and develop plans to improve their situation with IT talent. And it's a problem that takes on multiple dimensions. In financial services, for instance, the big banks in New York City have no problem finding talent. And so when you talk to a small retailer in the Midwest, they're very jealous of this. But the big banks have no problem. But they have a problem with, they're fearful as the economy improves in the next, hopefully, year or two, that they're going to have a problem with retention. And so in the major financial services companies, some companies really have a problem with talent development, and they all have a problem with moving with the rapid, the velocity of technology adoption, new technologies, and training their staff, retooling their IT staff, and also their partners. So there's management of talent with your external talent with your partners. So it's a very multifaceted problem, and we haven't got a clear read on the situation in Europe yet. Also challenges, but not as much, maybe not as much pain so far. So again, we talked about an approach and in our situation assessment about how CIOs need to cultivate these best practices and develop talent strategies. Our last prediction then, by 2018, 50% of business executives will view the CIO as a business innovator. So I said in the beginning I was going to talk about the role of the CIO, and having been a CIO, I feel like I'm more qualified to talk about the role of the CIO than other people. But really, what this reflects is, how does the business view the CIO? It's more about what the business wants in their chief information officer. Do they want them to be a business innovator, or do they want to lead business innovation and just have them manage that portfolio of business services? And if you look at this multi-year view, we sort of look back 20 years and projected ahead 5. We think this reflects the ongoing shift from the data center manager to the chief innovation officer. And and behind this is this transition from a portfolio of systems and technologies to managing a portfolio of business services. And our advice to CIOs is get to that middle role. Be that manager, not of the data center of the technology, but that manager of business services. Provide an agile portfolio. And services in the cloud and mobile services in particular can enable you to deliver services, to adapt new services to the business very quickly, and provide more agility. And it positions CIOs then to focus not on the technology, but on business improvement and business innovation, should that be the place. And the other advice to CIOs is that in these 3 roles, there's no right or wrong answer. You just don't want to be in the wrong one, right? You don't want to try to be the business innovator when they just want you to run the data center, and vice versa. So, okay, my last slide then. Our essential guidance to CIOs. The story here is, look, even in other economies, it's going to be a very uneven growth pattern for the next few years, and we see intense global competition, and with the digitization of a lot of services, we talk about moving to a portfolio of business services and away from technologies, and for a lot of us that's happening in our industries. And so the IT strategies that we advise CIOs to adopt are really to seize these opportunities by moving to a portfolio of services. Plan to manage your extended enterprise architecture, and so that you can provide the information from internal information sources as well as external, and really look at the compelling economic advantages of infrastructure as a service. We think in 12 to 15 months that virtually all CIOs will be unable to deny that there's a strong economic advantage to moving their infrastructure into the cloud, and during that period of time, we're going to see a lot of migration in that direction. And so people will be more comfortable with it. And CFOs are going to push their CIOs to move their infrastructure to the cloud because of the economics. And then also the two areas of capabilities that we advise all CIOs to really focus on improvements are sourcing and talent, right? Because you may not agree with, if you agree upon the general direction in terms of moving from a portfolio of technology to a portfolio of services, we know that we're going to be buying something very different, something that we can control, and that we need different and better contracts. We also need different and better talent. So we're really advising CIOs on, really think about what your portfolio of systems and services is and how that will enable business improvement. We think that this separates the winners from the losers, not only in business, but also in the CIO suite.